3 days after my graduation. I came to Sunday dinner with grease still trapped under my nails and a thin folder from my dad's office. I didn't say hello. I just slid the page across the table payments, bills, a transition timeline, and my sister's name stamped all over the future. My dad wouldn't meet my eyes. My mom did. Calm as a judge, she said. You're just good with your hands, not your brain. That was the moment I stopped my 60-hour unpaid weeks. And 3 days later, my dad called about the one client who never trusted our brand, only me. Graduation pictures were still sitting on my kitchen counter when my alarm went off at 6 a.m. Cap and gown, my parents' stiff smiles, my sister's perfect hair, my own face looking proud and tired at the same time. I had this quiet belief that the degree meant I'd finally be treated like more than the person who stayed late and fixed what everyone else ignored. By 7 a.m., I was back at the shop. Warm dust and oil hit my lungs the second I stepped in. The machines were already humming, metal singing against metal. I tied on my apron and slid into my station like I'd never left for college at all. No one called a meeting, no congrats, no, what did you learn? My dad walked past with a clipboard and said, "We're behind on the Carter order." That was it, like my diploma was just another tool I could hang on a wall. My mom didn't come to the floor. She never liked the noise. She liked the version of us she could show people. That week, my sister started showing up around lunchtime in clean shoes that didn't pick up dust. She'd smile with clients, pose beside finished pieces, and leave before anyone asked her to do anything real. Later, I'd see the photos' online captions about vision, and my mom would share everyone. Meanwhile, the work kept finding me. A shipment went out wrong on Tuesday, and I stayed until 10 p.m. rebuilding the schedule so we wouldn't eat the cost. My hands ached so bad I had to drive home with my palms. The next morning, my dad thanked my sister in front of the crew for handling it. I stared at the concrete floor and told myself it was a mistake. Recognition didn't matter. Results did. That's what I always told myself, because asking for pay never went well whenever I brought it up. It turned into a sermon. It's for the family. We're building something. It'll come back to you. The problem was nothing ever came back. No paycheck, no title, just more hours. 60-hour weeks labeled helping out, like I was doing a favor instead of keeping operations alive. Saturday came and I still showed up. Half the crew was gone, so every clang echoed louder. I ate a cold sandwich over my toolbox, grease smearing the paper wrapper. I kept thinking, any day now, they'll sit me down. Any day now, I'll be in the room where decisions get made. Instead, the small exclusions started stacking. Calendar invites I used to get stopped coming. Supplier calls that always went to me started getting routed to the office. Conversations paused when I walked in, then restarted behind closed doors. My sister's name showed up on emails that didn't need her, while mine vanished from threads I built. On Friday, my dad stopped by my station as the fluorescent lights gave that faint, irritating buzz. "Before you head out," he said, "can you grab the payments and a couple bills from my office? I need to check something tonight." His office smelled like stale coffee and printer toner. Nothing like the shop. The door stuck for a second the way it always did, and when it finally gave, the fluorescent light flickered once, then steadied with that low electric hum that makes your teeth feel itchy. I knew where he kept everything, bottom drawer, left side, labeled in his handwriting. I pulled it open and the folders slid forward like they were eager to fall. I grabbed the stack-marked payments and a couple bills on top, exactly what he asked for. Then a thinner folder caught on the edge of the drawer. It didn't look like the rest. No smudges, no grease fingerprints, just a clean label that said internal planning. I stood there with my hand still on the drawer, telling myself not to be dramatic. People keep plans. That's normal. I wasn't snooping. I was literally doing what I was told to do. But my thumb had already lifted the corner. The first page wasn't emotional. It was neat. Boxes, dates, a timeline, transition, leadership, client communications, branding, and there it was. My sister's name, again and again. Not in the casual way my parents used it at dinner, but in the way you write someone's name when you're assigning power. I scanned faster, like speed could make it less real. Owner structure, future lead, external face, stakeholder meetings. I kept looking for myself the way you look for your seat number on a ticket. I found it once, halfway down, in smaller text under a section titled Support Role. Next to it was a note that made my stomach drop. Phase out. No explanation, no conversation. Just a date range like I was a subscription they planned to cancel. My hands went cold even though the shop was hot. The buzz of the light above me suddenly felt louder. I could hear the distant grind of metal on metal through the wall, steady and indifferent, like the building didn't care who got erased. I read it again, slower, hoping I'd misread, hoping it was a draft, hoping there was a second page where someone wrote, actually. Never mind, she's the backbone. There wasn't. I didn't see a paycheck for myself in those pages. I didn't see a title. I didn't see a path that included me at the table. I saw exactly what I'd been trained to be. Useful, quiet, temporary. My throat tightened. I swallowed hard and forced my fingers to stop shaking. I closed the folder and slid it back into the drawer, lined up with the others, perfectly straight, like nothing had happened. Then, I picked up the payments and bills I came for and walked out. On the shop floor, people were laughing at something, a quick burst of sound swallowed by the machines. My dad was 10 feet away, talking to someone with that calm voice he used for business. He didn't look up. I went back to my station and worked until the clock hit the end of the day. My body moved on muscle memory, but my mind kept replaying two words like a warning label. Phase out. That night, in my truck. I stared at my hands on the steering wheel, grease in the lines of my skin. Calluses I'd earned, years I'd donated, and I realized something sharp and simple. If they were building a future without me, then I was done funding it with my silence. The next morning, I showed up like always, and I stopped staying late. The first day I left on time felt wrong in my bones. At 5 p.m., the shop was still loud, still hot, still in that end-of-day rush where everyone pretends the last hour doesn't count. I wiped down my station, put my tools back in their places, and flipped off the small light above my bench. That click tiny. Ordinary felt like a door shutting. One of the guys 2 stations down looked up. "You taking off?" "Yeah," I said. "Calm. I'm done for today." He blinked like I'd spoken another language. In this place, done wasn't a word you used unless someone higher up said you could be. I walked out anyway. Outside. The air was cooler, quiet. I could hear my own footsteps instead of metal grinding. In my truck, my shoulders dropped from around my ears for the first time and I didn't know how long. Then the guilt hit. Because I wasn't leaving a random job. I was leaving people, men and women who'd worked beside me for years. People who were going to feel the weight I used to catch before it fell. And that was exactly why the plan worked. The next morning, a client email came in at 8 p.m. with technical questions normally I'd answer from my couch. Laptop balanced on my knees. Grease-stained notes spread out like homework. I didn't. I replied at 8 a.m. the next day, polite, clear. I CC'd management and wrote, "Looping in the office for next steps. A supplier called during lunch asking for clarification on specs." I listened, then said, "You'll want to confirm that with the office." I transferred the call. I didn't stay on the line to make sure it got handled. A delivery ran late on Wednesday. Normally, I'd reshuffle the whole schedule and stay until 9 p.m. so no one else had to scramble. This time, I documented the delay in the shared system and left it there, like a sign that said, "This exists. Someone with authority can deal with it." At first, nothing exploded. That's what people don't understand about stepping back. The first few days are quiet. The machine keeps moving because it's been trained to absorb strain. I had built it that way. I had been the shock absorber, without me constantly smoothing the edges. The rough spots didn't show up as disasters. They showed up as delays, confusion, meetings that ran long because no one wanted to make the final call. I watched a problem that would have taken me 10 minutes turn into a 1-hour discussion in the office. My sister sat in the chair like she belonged there, nodding at words she didn't understand. My mom walked through once, smiling at a client like the shop was a stage. My dad's jaw stayed tight all day. Thursday. The longtime supplier pulled me aside near the loading bay. He smelled like diesel and cold air. "You still planning to stay there long term?" he asked. Casual, like it was nothing. I hesitated. That was enough. He nodded like he already knew. "Whatever you do," he said. "You're good. People notice." I drove home that night and opened my banking app out of habit. No paycheck deposit, same as always. My credit score had been climbing since college, but I couldn't keep building a real adult life on promises and family speeches. In my head. The folder drawer clicked shut again. Friday at 4 p.m. My phone rang. Dad. He never called during the day unless something was on fire. I answered and heard his breathing before his words. "We've got a situation," he said. "What kind of situation?" I asked, already knowing. "Our biggest client," he said, voice tight. "They're pausing the contract. They're asking for you." He said it like the words might bite him. "Our biggest client is pausing the contract." In the background, I could hear the shop tools clinking, someone laughing too loud, a machine whining like it needed attention, all the sounds I used to fix without being asked. "They're asking for you," he added, quieter. Specifically. I leaned against my truck door, staring at the dust drifting through the open bay. For years, that place felt like my second heartbeat. Now it just sounded expensive. "I documented everything," I said. "It's in the shared system, the specs, the timelines, the notes, everything." A sharp exhale. "They don't want documents," he snapped, then caught himself. "They want reassurance. From you. Reassurance." The word landed wrong, like I was a soothing product. Not a person. "How long do we have?" I asked. 48 hours, he said. "They're meeting internally on Monday. If we can't calm this down, they'll move on." And the value, I already knew the range. He'd bragged about it at every holiday like it was a family trophy. "Around $300,000 a year," he said, voice cracking on the number. "We can't lose them. We. The same we that somehow never included me in meetings." I let the silence stretch until he got uncomfortable. "You can tell a lot about someone by what they do when you don't rush to save them. Just talk to them," he finally said. "Just this once. You can say whatever you want after. We'll revisit things. Revisit. Like I was a topic, not a daughter." "I'll call you back," I said, and ended it before he could pour more guilt into the line. At home. My apartment was quiet except for the AC kicking on and off. I washed my hands twice, scrubbing until my knuckles turned pink, but the smell of oil still clung to my skin like a stubborn memory. I sat at my kitchen table and opened a notebook. I didn't write feelings. I wrote facts, client relationships I managed, emergency fixes I handled, after-hours calls I answered, shipments I rerouted, vendor issues I smoothed over. The list kept going, line after line, until my chest felt tight, not with pride, but with clarity. This wasn't helping out. This was a job I'd been doing for free while someone else was being positioned as the future. I opened my calendar and scheduled a consultation with an attorney for next week, not to get revenge, to translate my boundaries into something that couldn't be argued with, a time, a paper trail, a process that didn't care about guilt trips. Then my phone buzzed. A text. "Dinner tonight. 6 p.m. Don't be late," from my mom, like I was still a teenager. I stared at it, then typed back 2 words. "See you." I didn't plan a speech. I didn't rehearse lines in the mirror. I packed the thin folder in my bag and drove over with the radio off, letting the silence do its work. Their house was warm and too bright, like it was always trying to look perfect. The smell of roasted chicken hit me in the entryway. My mom was already setting the table, adjusting napkins that didn't need adjusting. My dad stood at the counter with a bottle of wine he wasn't opening, eyes darting like he was waiting for a bomb to go off. And there, at the table, was my sister already seated, already smiling. Her phone was in her hand, not face down, not tucked away, angled, like she was ready to record whatever version of me would make the best story later. I tightened my grip on my bag and walked in anyway. Dinner at 6 p.m. in that house felt staged. Coasters perfect, napkins crisp. My mom's voice calm and controlled, like she was hosting clients. I walked in on time. My dad tried to smile and failed. My sister was already seated, polished, phone in her hand angled, not hidden. We got through a minute of small talk before I pulled the thin folder from my bag and set it in the middle of the table. Paper whispered over polished wood. My dad's eyes dropped, then slid away. "What's that?" my mom asked. "Even. You know," I said. "I found it while grabbing the payments and bills Dad asked for." My sister's mouth lifted. "So you were snooping." "I was doing what I was told," I said, and opened the folder to the page I'd memorized. Boxes, dates, a transition timeline, my sister's name everywhere, mine once, under support role, phase out. My dad leaned in, reading like he could erase it with his eyes. My mom didn't look down. She looked straight at me. "This is planning," she said. "You weren't meant to see it yet." "Yet," I repeated. "So there's a schedule for when you tell me I'm being replaced." My sister let out a bored laugh. "You're overreacting. It's just a structure. Structure that makes you the future," I said, "and makes me disposable." My dad opened his mouth, then closed it. Same old silence. My mom exhaled, the sound she made when she decided a conversation was inconvenient. Then she said it, clear as a verdict. "You're just good with your hands, not your brain." My body went hot and cold. I heard the kitchen lights buzzing and felt the oil smell on my sleeves like a label I couldn't peel off. My dad's phone buzzed on the table. He grabbed it fast, read, and went pale. "It's the client," he said. "They're pausing." My sister scoffed. "They're bluffing." "They're not." My dad's voice cracked. "Effective immediately. They want her." My mom blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, "they trust the person who answers when something breaks. Not the brand, not the posts, the person." My sister pushed back her chair. "This is insane." My dad turned to me, and for the first time he sounded small. "Please, just step in, just this once." "And after I save it," I asked, "do I go back to being phased out?" "We can revisit no," I said. Still calm, I stopped my 60-hour unpaid weeks. "I'm not restarting them because you're scared." My mom's eyes hardened. "You're being selfish." "This affects all of us. It affects the system you built," I said. "A system that only works if I stay quiet." I stood up, slid the folder back into my bag, and walked out. My dad half rose, too, hand hovering like he wanted to stop me, then dropping back to his lap. At 9 a.m. the next morning, I sent one email effective immediately. No unpaid labor, no after-hours emergencies, no quick favors. Any future involvement would require a written agreement pay, authority, scope. Then I let my phone ring, watching the screen light up again and again, and feeling absolutely nothing when it did. A few weeks later, I met Jenna Lawson at a coffee shop in a different city. No shop noise, no metal screaming, just the steady hiss of the espresso machine and the soft scrape of chairs on tile. She didn't ask me to help out. She asked what I could do, how I thought, how I handled systems under stress. When I explained, she nodded once like it was simple. "We need that," she said. Then she slid a paper across the table with real terms, real pay, defined authority, a scope that didn't include midnight emergencies disguised as family favors. The first morning I started, I caught myself checking my phone at 10 p.m. out of habit. Nothing, no panic, no guilt. I washed my hands and realized they didn't smell like oil anymore. Not because I was ashamed of the work, but because my life finally had edges. My dad texted a few times after that. Not apologies, just circles. My mom sent messages about being a family without ever naming what she'd said. My sister kept posting, louder than ever, smiling beside things she didn't build. And for the first time, none of it pulled me back. I didn't burn anything down. I didn't have to. I just stopped giving my life away for free.
What stands out most about the main character in this story isn't rage or revenge, it's quiet self-respect. She doesn't blow up the family, She doesn't sabotage anything. She simply stops donating her life to a system that only works when she stays silent. For years, she was treated like the reliable one, the person who fixes problems, stays late, and keeping everything running without needing credit. And here's a lesson. Being needed is not the same as being valued. When someone is truly skilled, disciplined, and capable, their value doesn't disappear just because one door closes. Real competence travels. If a person is genuinely good, opportunities will exist beyond one workplace, one title, and one family's approval. But the other side of this story is a warning. Families can lose each other when comparison turns into jealousy. The moment people start labeling someone as useful but not worthy, they're not protecting the family, they're poisoning it. The healthiest families don't compete internally, they build each other up. So let me ask you, if you realize your family only respected you when they needed you, could you keep proving yourself? Or could you finally set a boundary and choose yourself?